like the same area of the church, and there's maybe 4 or 5 of us, and all of a sudden he starts talking again. The lips are moving. I'm the only one who's seeing it at this point. So I said, does anybody see what I'm seeing? No, nobody saw it. And then all of a sudden, each one starts saying, oh my God, his lips are moving, his lips are moving.
This is Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. Those moments when heaven and earth collide and we see God, we see His hand reaching out to us, attempting to get our attention, inviting us into a closer relationship. Here we share stories of encounter with angels, divine intervention, prophetic dreams, visions, near-death experiences, big and little God incidents. I'm your host, Trapper Jack. Welcome to episode 78 of Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God. So glad you're here. What do you do with those articles, the ones that have the headlines like Tears Flow from Statue of Blessed Virgin Mary, or Blood-like Substance Drips from Crucifix? Do you read those? Because when you do, you find out like the tears are oil. It's like, not water, oil? How do you get oil? How is it that's real blood? How is that real? Just God, again, trying to get our attention, reminding us that the tears representing the sadness of God, the sadness, how we've turned away. The blood reminding us that God became man, died on a cross. Do we care? Reminders, conversation. I just call anything miraculous a conversation. God making a statement. We're having conversations back and forth to God. He says something, we react or don't. There's a statue, I think it's the Middle East, the statue this giant megaton statue, and I think the head did a full 180 one day. It's like it was looking over there, and now suddenly it's looking over here. It's like, what? There's a shrine not too far from here. I'll call it a shrine, but part of it is that there's in it there's this room, and in the room there's like this 2 square foot area that if you stand right there on that particular spot, you smell roses. I mean roses, like you are covered in roses, a sign of the Blessed Virgin Mary that she's here. And it's been this way for decades. And if you step outside that square, if you will, it goes away. And so you step back in, there they are again. And they've even turned like this oscillating fan, on that area, which should blow away the fragrance, has absolutely no effect. None whatsoever. Whether the fan's on, off, oscillating, it doesn't matter. If you're in that square, there it is. And it's just, these constant reminders, these constant conversations. Well, today I talked to Pam. Pam's from Long Island. She's a lifelong nurse, retired now. Just the fact that she was a lifelong nurse tells you a lot about the heart of Pam. Just good people, and you'll hear that. You'll hear that in her voice. But in her case, we're doing some lip reading with Jesus and this experience that she had more than once. She's been listening to the podcast for about 3 months now, this podcast as well as my first one, Blind Faith Live, and she's found a nice home here.
Listen to everything, and I go to sleep listening to you. It's just, I am like addicted. I really am, seriously.
Oh, awesome.
You have just such a gift of speech.
Well, when you talk more gooder, like many of us do, I'm professionally trained.
Right. And I learn something new every time I listen.
But today we learned from Pam and her experience here on Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God. Maybe the first thing we talk about is the first thing you mentioned in your lovely letter. My wife read the letter to me because you actually still write.
This is probably almost 20 years ago. I was in a terrible marriage for a very short time, and I went to church a lot, and then I was in a little, very small prayer group with some women. And I went to church in Elizabeth Seton Church is in Palm Coast, Florida, and it's a large church, and I've never seen it before, but above the altar is the risen Christ, lifelike, maybe even bigger than lifelike.
Is it on the wall, or what are you saying?
It's hanging from the wall, so it looks like he's just hanging there with his arms out.
Kind of risen, suspended there in the air, the living yes, Christ. Okay.
With his garments flowing.
Okay.
And I was sitting there all by myself in this big church, and all of a sudden, and I'm just praying and talking, whatever I was doing, and all of a sudden his lips start to move. And then I say, oh no, this is not happening to me. So I got up and went a little closer, and he was just, the lips were actually moving. And I stayed there a while, but he kept moving his lips and trapping. You know what I did? I left. I couldn't believe I left Jesus talking to me.
And why do you think you left?
Because he kept talking.
What, you couldn't get a word in edgewise? So I'm out of here.
I know. God. I know. I could kick myself, and every time I see a statue, I say, please, just give me another chance, please.
Did you try to read the lips?
Yes, it sounded, I mean, I didn't hear any sound, but it seemed like it was in a different language. I didn't notice anything in English.
So are we assuming Aramaic, and how would you know? I mean, his language was Aramaic, so are you assuming it was like Aramaic? Yes, or?
I am, because I didn't recognize one syllable of any sort.
And you say you're in this church by yourself?
Yes.
And you just wandered in because you wanted to go into the church?
Yes, and behind the altar is where the Eucharist is, and there are doors there 24 hours a day.
Okay.
And but I was alone. So then...
So you must have been sitting pretty close to be able to even see the lips, I assume.
I was maybe 4 pews back.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see him clearly.
Tell me about the feeling you had. Okay, you have lips moving. And you say you think, your sense was he's talking to you.
Yes.
Do you have a sense of the message? Even though you can't tell what the words are, even though it's not English, are you getting any kind of thoughts that he's saying a particular thing to you at that point?
I think I was so shocked that I wasn't even thinking properly. Truly. I was just like, I can't believe this is happening to me. This lowly human, me. So I think I was just in awe of what was happening.
How long were you watching this?
Maybe 7 minutes, 7 minutes. Oh, but wait, it gets better or it gets worse.
Okay.
So I'm back in this prayer group with maybe a week or two later, and we decide to go to church. And I never told anybody about it except my sister. And so I'm sitting in like the same area of the church, and there's maybe 4 or 5 of us, and all of a sudden he starts talking again. The lips are moving. I'm the only one who's seeing it at this point. So I said, does anybody see what I'm seeing? No, nobody saw it. And then all of a sudden, each one started saying, oh my God, his lips are moving. And we all thought that we couldn't quite detect what the lips were saying. But at one point, I saw him say, I love you. And then the woman next to me said, oh my God, I think he said, I love you. But was still silent. And then we stayed there a while, and I'm so embarrassed. He's going to strike me. We left with him talking again. You
all left with his lips moving?
Yes.
Anybody have a phone on him just to kind of capture it? No, you weren't thinking that way, were you?
No. And you know what? At that time, the phones were so, not great.
Okay, phones didn't do much of that then? What year is this? What year are we talking about?
Oh, boy. I came back in 2004. So it must have been 2003, 2004.
Yeah, there was video then, though. There was video.
Yeah.
But you're not thinking that way. Not, you're not 23 years old, and therefore you weren't thinking that way.
Exactly. But I still apologize to Jesus. I'm so sorry. I walked away. I'm so sorry.
So, and how many women again were there?
About 5 of us, including me. But they were very into religion. They were very religious ladies.
Okay. So at least one other person saw the I love you.
No, all of us did.
You all saw the I love you?
Yes.
Wow.
I know, wow.
Did you guys say anything to anybody at that church?
No, but I did go back and visit a friend, and I went back to the church, but, Jesus was silent.
Well, he was waiting for you to get a word in edgewise, obviously.
Right.
So, and
Oh my God.
what do you make of that? What do you make of that? That he did that for you? He did that for all the women there. What do you make of that?
I was in such torment with this marriage that I did become physically sick, and I really turned to him, and I think he was just saying, "I'm with you, I'm here for you, and you'll be okay."
Because you were suffering.
Yes.
Yeah. Did that moment, those two moments, did change you in any way? Or what was the effect?
The effect was still, I can't believe this happened to me, because things like that don't happen to me. He made me feel very special and loved, which I wasn't in this marriage at all. But I'm not a deep thinker, Trapper.
Well, that's the beauty of Jesus. You know, he's always, gosh, I think it was today's reading as I record this, in which it was another way. He did this more than once, where he would take a child and, and hold the child and say, "This is how you have to come to me." You know, he's always stressing the childlike innocence, the approaching him, and how we all need to be childlike. And that definitely has nothing to do with overthinking something or being a brainiac or, deeply theological. My experience is that those who have the experiences are often, usually, 99% of the time, not the ones with all the letters behind their names, who have all the theological answers, but it's those out there who just love Jesus. They just love Jesus. They love God.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that, and as in your case, the suffering of just how many times, if you mentioned you've listened to the episodes more than once, how many times do we hear someone who is either suffering at that moment or going to be suffering, where they need that moment that they can then call back on that moment and go, "He's with me through this,"
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
So you're in the midst of something pretty bad there, which you got out of.
Yes.
I know you kind of beat yourself up because you're walking out in the middle of him.
I know. I walked away from Jesus. Oh my God.
You didn't walk away from Jesus. No, you're with Jesus. He's with you. You all saw the "I love you."
Yes.
That's a beautiful experience. That's beautiful.
I know. It really is. Trapper, you know what I did last night? I had a St. Vincent de Paul meeting because I'm a member of St. Vincent de Paul. I'm a Vincentian. And the very first 12 minutes of the talk was I played your Touched by Heaven, number 5, when you spoke with the mothers from St. Edward's.
Yeah.
And you spoke about the Eucharistic miracles and Our Lady of Guadalupe. Everybody was just so shocked. They didn't even know. Really, they knew a little about Our Lady of Guadalupe, but it was all news to them. It was unbelievable.
Let's see, 70% of Catholics don't believe anything happens during the Mass. They don't believe the Eucharist becomes Jesus. And you got all these miracles saying, "Yes, it is." And you have Jesus saying, "Yes, it is." And you have, from the beginning, the church said, "Yes, it is." And now we're just walking around in a sleepwalk. And it's just amazing, isn't it?
It is.
Hallelujah. That's what we're here for,
I know. And what you bring to people is so much more than just a talk. You bring your heart and you bring Jesus right to us and Mary. It's just, I wish I could describe how I feel of what you do for all of us. And I thank you so much from my heart. I'm going to cry because you are a gift from God. You really are. You are doing God's work. And I know you are going to get your sight back. I know that. Because of your faith and that how much you feel that you are going to be healed. And I feel it too. I feel it. Especially after talking with you, I feel it.
In the Blind Faith Live podcast, I think this came up with Dr. Namey and everything, is that early on with him, I would go in for treatments with him, And there was this one time in particular where he said, you just stopped your healing. Why'd you do that? Why'd you do that? And I said, well, I didn't do anything on purpose. He said, did you feel what was going on? I said, yeah, I felt something going on. And he said, you stopped it. And he was getting emotional. He was getting really emotional. He said, why did you stop it? I said, I didn't do it consciously. I thought about it. And then it was kind of interesting. In just the next, I don't know, couple of weeks or something, I had a little talk I was giving at this church where Dr. Namey was going to be doing a healing service. And I went in to talk to that congregation to kind of prepare them for what was coming. And surprise, surprise, the doctor and his wife, Kathy, wandered in and sat in the back. And I was explaining to them what was going to be happening with the healing service. And I explained about this recent time in his office where I apparently stopped, the healing from getting my vision back. I'm legally blind and all that. I said, God was offering me healing through Dr. Namey, but my spirit connected directly to God said, no, not yet. There's a better time. There's a better time. It's going to have more impact if we wait on this. After that, the doctor and I and Kathy, we went across to a restaurant across the way, and he said to me, you said something interesting in there today. And I said, didn't I though? He said, that message came direct from God, from the Holy Spirit. And I said, but you got so emotional when the healing didn't happen. I said, did you know that? And he said, yeah, of course I know. I know that there's a better time. I said, then why did you get so emotional? And he said, for the same reason Jesus cried when Lazarus died.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that even though you know what's coming, in the moment, you're in that moment, and your friend just turned down a healing. And so in that moment, he got emotional, he got teary, and a little upset at me. It's like, why did you do that? And I'm kind of oblivious until I kind of figured it out. There's a better time. There's going to be a better time when Trapper Jack, when more people know about his blindness, so that when it comes back, it could be a loud moment. It could be a very loud moment. And if that glorifies God, that's what it feels like. It's going to be for the glory of God.
Well, God bless you. Wow.
It's a good thing. There's no pain unless I walk in front of a bus. That's my experience. I mean, some people deal with pain. I don't have any pain. I don't have any pain. Yeah. I just can't see.
Oh my God.
And so I have to lean on my wife and my son and daughter and all that kind of stuff a bit. But they're great about it. They're just great about it. So, and not everybody has that. I think the bravest people in the world are those people, the blind people you see walking down the street, and they're heading out to go out into their world, and they live alone. They're doing it all by themselves. Those, to me, are the bravest people in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, I can't imagine. I
know.
But I think Dr. Namey and Kathy helped heal me because I have very little pain now.
What happened? What'd you do?
I wrote to them. Because I have stenosis and all that stuff going on with arthritis and stuff.
So you have back pain. You have back pain.
Yeah, and neck pain. And okay. I've been going every week to the doctor, and he's called an osteopathic medical manipulator. He's not a chiropractor, but he's a medical doctor, and just very gently moves it. And I was going every week for months and months and months. Since I've written to them, I haven't been going. I've canceled the last 3 times.
Off of an email or a letter? Did you send them a letter?
No, an email.
Let's give the email so Kathy can get, she just doesn't have enough reading material. So if anybody would like to have a prayer from the doctor and Kathy, they do this for free. The emails and all that kind of stuff. You can send an email. It's Kathy with a K at pathtofaith.com. Path as in road, to as in T-O, and then faith as in faith, hope, and charity. So it's Path to Faith. Yeah, Kathy at pathtofaith.com. That's called intercessory prayer, baby. Yeah, there you go. Great. All right. And tell me about your upbringing. Where you been during your life in this faith journey here?
Catholic family, just me and my sister and my parents, and we always went to church.
Grew up in New York?
Yes, in Glen Cove. It was a loving home, very loving. My friends would say it's like a Donna Reed home. And then I transferred to a university in North Dakota and got my nursing degree.
Where in North Dakota?
Jamestown.
Oh, okay. I lived in Minot for
okay.
three exciting years.
Oh,
I was going to say there was a sign coming into town of Why Not Minot, and these were my high school years, and I had moved from California, so I had a pretty long list of Why Not Minot. And if anybody's listening in Minot, please contact me. I love you, but
I loved it there. The people there, the students who were from North Dakota were like the salt of the earth.
That is true. That is very true. These are the best people in the world. They are.
Yes,
they're the best people. They're solid, man. They are solid.
They are.
Yeah.
A lot of them at the time didn't have electricity or water in their homes. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
And this was in the early 70s.
Crazy.
No,
okay.
It was great. I got into pediatrics.
Okay.
My first job was at Johns Hopkins in the neonatal nursery.
Well, you got to be smart to be a nurse. You got to be smart to be a nurse.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So then I was homesick, so I landed at North Shore Hospital, which is now the mega hospital of all the hospitals that they have hospitals all over the place. It's now called Northwell. And I landed a job that was the job of a lifetime. I was the coordinator for the birth defects program in the Child Development Center. And my boss gave me free rein to take care of these kids and their families. So I would see them in clinics, subspecialty clinics. Most of them were born with spina bifida, physical abnormalities, and genetic abnormalities. And I got to know these kids and their families like we became families ourselves. It was such a wonderful career.
Nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
And you kept your faith through it all?
Yes, sometimes I wouldn't go to Mass and stuff like that, but I did keep my faith, yeah. And then my last 10 years, because my program ended, I became a psychiatric nurse at the hospital near my home. And I was there for the last 10 years, and then that closed, and then I retired.
Okay. Helped a lot of people.
Yeah, I learned a lot from them, too.
Okay. All right. And as far as experiences go, what's next on our list?
St. Teresa.
Okay. Little Flower?
Little Flower.
Okay. Mm-hmm. St. Therese in some circles. St. Therese, St. Teresa. Yep. Yep.
Right.
Okay.
My mom had Alzheimer's, and my dad was into cancer and not doing well at all. So we hired an aide so we could go to work, my sister and I, and they would be taken care of. And this lady, Mary, was a holy roller boy. She was Irish, and she gave me a card of St. Teresa, and she said, pray to her. And I said, who's she? So she said, she'll show you roses when you pray to her, that she's listening to you and she's with you. So I came back from the hospital that night, and I turned on my TV, and I never watched QVC, and it was on QVC, and a big red rose was on the TV, and they were selling the Capodimonte rose from Italy, and I couldn't believe it, a red rose.
That's the way she works. That's exactly how she works. Yep.
I know.
Yeah.
Then I really started praying to her, and our prayer was that one of us, my sister or I, would be with him when he died. So one day, and it was cold, it was the middle of winter, and it was cool out. One yellow rose blooms on our neighbor's bush. One yellow rose, and I told Barbara, I said, oh, Barbara, look at this. So then I started watching it, and then a couple of days later, it just shriveled, and we were walking to the hospital ourselves, and I said, I'm 99% sure that Dad might die tonight, but I need another sign. So I didn't get a sign. So I didn't stay over. The next day, the petals were on the ground. I said, I'm sure, but St. Teresa gave me another sign. I walked in. I always walked into the hospital chapel to say a prayer, and there was a red rose on the altar. And then I said, yep, he's going to die. And I was with him when he died.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was unbelievable.
Signs. Pam is a sign to me. Pam is a beautiful sign. I always say, these stories are not competition. This is not a competition. One person has a better story than somebody else, makes them a better person. No, it's not. It's just with each individual, he sends us our signs. Sometimes we miss them. For example, Pam being the sign is that when I went to bed Tuesday night, I edit on Wednesday, we publish on Thursday, is generally the way it works. And I went to bed Tuesday night thinking, I think I'm doing a Fatima story a week early. And I think guess where I'm going. But I woke up Wednesday morning, and as I've told you many times before, music plays, in my head. I'll just wake up and there's a song playing. The song happened to be, it's by Foreigner. It's the only soft song they did. I mean, they usually crushed your head with loud music, but there was this one song, Waiting for a Girl Like You. That's what was playing. And I'm waiting for a girl like you. Please, would you like to hear more? No. And it's like, okay, with a little hint of the song from Annie, Tomorrow. I'm definitely going to stop singing. So I got a little bit of Tomorrow wrapped in with I've been waiting for a girl like you. And I'm going, okay. So I told my wife, I said, I don't think I'm doing Fatima. What are you doing? I don't know. I think there's some woman I think is supposed to fall out of the sky today. I don't know. Today or tomorrow. I don't know. We went to Mass, and then as we were leaving Mass, she said, I'm going to stop by the post office. We were waiting for a note from somebody, and she came out of the post office and said, well, that wasn't in there, but there's something from somebody named Pam. And this beautiful long letter and this gorgeous handwriting, and there's a picture of this and a card, and then she says, oh, I have a story to tell you. And it's like, well, I guess that's who I've been waiting for. And that's who we heard from as we connected Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Slight delay in the podcast, but certainly worth it. So just so you know, that's how I knew to trust that you would be calling whoever you are, were.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Wonderful. Can I tell you, I'm so excited. Can I tell you one more thing?
Yeah.
I was in church like 2-3 weeks ago, and I'm a Vincentian, and I kind of get really involved with some of the families. And this one family she was a single mother. She just had a newborn, and she had a 10-year-old daughter who I fell in love with. And we have things, as we're getting older, we're trying to get rid of things. And I have these beautiful toys and stuff from when I was a child, and my father wrapped them, and they're hanging up in the basement. And I said, my sister and I said, let's give her the cradle, the baby cradle for the doll, but it's a big cradle, it's beautiful. And we had a doll too. And I hadn't given it to her, and I just said to God in church, I said, God, could you just show me a sign of what you want me to do, and if I'm doing what you want me to do? I walked behind the altar to talk to a priest or something. I came back, and there was little Ayana lighting a candle with her grandmother. And that's it. God, how blatant can that be? Is that incredible?
That's
Isn't
beautiful.
It?
And you knew it for what it was, that it was like, yep, there's the sign. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nice.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you think animals go to heaven?
I think that if that would make you happy to see your dog or cat or whatever again, yeah. I don't think it's about the cat or the dog. I think it's about you.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah.
I got a lot of animals.
You got a lot of animals. If that makes you happy, I think God wants you happy. Why not? Why not? They have spirits. There's spirit. Everything has a spirit to it, a spirit behind it.
I believe that. Absolutely. I do. Trapper, do you really only have 61 Patreons?
Yeah, we're in the 63, 60. It kind of bounces around the 60s usually. It's been high as...
That's all?
Well,
I thought you would have thousands. Seriously.
Well, we have thousands of people who listen, but they don't necessarily help it, financially. But I'm thrilled that they're listening. That's good. That's good,
Well, I tell all my friends about you. So.
Well, thank you so much. And thanks for just jumping on Patreon here. I noticed you just joined up and everything, and thank you so much for that.
Oh, my pleasure. I mean, any chance I get to see you or talk to you, I'll do it.
All right. Love it. What's our title? What do you think the title of this is?
God is real.
Yeah, he is. His lips move.
Okay.
What did God just say? Well, I think God said in this episode what he continues to say to all of us, how blessed we are. How blessed we are to have a God that just keeps sending us these signs, whether it's the lips of Jesus moving or flowers from St. Therese saying, I'm here interceding for you, praying for you, or the fragrance of flowers, or whatever pops up each week on these episodes. God just reminding us he's here with us on this journey, as we work our way back home from where we came, that being heaven. The other thing, she mentioned Patreon, and I know I don't sell it all that much. I just kind of mention it now and then. And when we started in April of last year, I think we had 33 patrons. I thought that was a great number to start with, 33, the age of Christ when he died on the cross. And we're at 60-something now, and that's not exactly huge growth. The audience has grown a lot since then, but not so much Patreon. So if you'd like to help us out on a monthly basis, join Pam. How did she do it? She went to patreon.com, patreon.com, or just this episode here, episode 78 at touchedbyheaven.net, and click through the link. And if you can help us out on a monthly basis, we appreciate it. As this points out, as I stutter, I need your story. I need your story. You're an answer to a prayer too. You have a story that would help somebody else. So you share that story, your encounter with angels, divine intervention, visions, dreams, near death, big or little God incidents. Let me know by going to touchedbyheaven.net. Thank you so much. And as I said, though, more than anything else, I thank you for listening to these episodes. Thank you so much for listening and sharing, and certainly sharing your story with me at touchedbyheaven.net. See you next week. This is Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack.